A CEO followed one of his employees home after she worked double shift and asked for leftover food. What he saw that night left him in tears and changed everything. Stay tuned to find out the heart-wrenching truth that the CEO discovered, and tell us in comments where you are watching from. Daniel Whitaker wasn't new to leadership. As the CEO of Harvest Lane Kitchens, a successful national restaurant chain, he'd read thousands of employee requests over the years. Most were predictable: shift changes, vacation days, payroll issues. But that night, working late in his quiet office, one simple message stopped him cold. Would it be possible to take home any leftover meals after my shift? It came from Jasmine Bell, a line cook at one of their Atlanta locations. At first glance, it looked harmless, simple, maybe even practical. But then Daniel noticed something odd. She had submitted it through the formal HR system. Not a passing word to her manager. Not a quick note scribbled in the break room. She had logged into the internal portal, filled out a request form, and sent it through official channels, just to ask for leftover food. That's not how people ask for extras. Not when it came to scraps. Most just grabbed what was left or asked the kitchen lead for permission. So why had Jasmine put it in writing? Daniel opened her profile. 46 years old, full-time cook. No spouse, no listed dependents, no emergency contact. Clean record, always on time. Never once called in sick. She'd been with the company over a year and hadn't asked for anything until now. Daniel leaned back in his chair. This wasn't about being frugal. She was asking because she needed it, and she wanted to make sure she wasn't breaking the rules. That hit differently. He looked at the clock. 10:47 p.m. Her shift ended at 11. On impulse, he stood up, grabbed his coat, and left the building. He wasn't sure why, but something in his gut told him he had to see for himself. Daniel sat in his car outside the restaurant's back exit, engine off, watching. A few employees filtered out, saying their goodbyes for the night. Then he saw her, Jasmine Bell. Her dark uniform was neat but worn. Her hair pulled back tight, no phone in her hand, no distractions, just quiet efficiency as she stepped outside, holding a brown paper bag, probably the leftovers she had requested. She didn't linger. She untied her apron, folded it neatly, grabbed a scuffed-up backpack from the hook, and headed down the sidewalk toward the nearest bus stop. Daniel stayed back, his luxury SUV blending into the shadows of the lot. He'd never seen this part of the company before. A worker, on her feet all day, walking alone under a flickering streetlight, waiting for a bus in the cold after closing. She didn't look around, didn't hesitate. She was used to it. Moments later, the bus arrived. Jasmine boarded without even glancing up. Daniel pulled out and followed, careful to keep his distance. He didn't know where she was going, but something told him. He needed to know. The ride was longer than he expected. The city slowly faded behind them. Bright storefronts gave way to shuttered businesses. The streets grew darker, quieter, more forgotten. She didn't get off. Stop after stop passed. Still, she stayed seated. Daniel checked the time. 12:22 a.m. Then finally she stood, reached for the cord, and stepped off the bus. Daniel turned down the same street, and what he saw next made his grip tighten on the wheel. Jasmine didn't head toward an apartment. She didn't walk into a townhouse or a duplex. She turned down a narrow street lined with aging trailers, some with broken porch lights, others barely standing. Daniel slowed his car, keeping to the shadows. Then he saw her stop, not at a home, not even a rental, at a small, rusted trailer. She shifted the brown paper bag to one arm and unlocked the door. A soft, flickering light came on inside. No security system, no porch, just a cracked step leading inside. Daniel parked a short distance away and got out to hide in the shadows, following her closely. This was where she lived. Jasmine Bell, a full-time employee who had never missed a shift, sleeping in a trailer. He expected humble. He didn't expect this. He leaned forward, watching through the front window, unsure of what he might see. And then he saw movement. 3 children rushed toward Jasmine the moment she walked in. They wrapped their arms around her waist, giggling, excited. She knelt, hugging them tightly. Then, a moment later, a 4th figure emerged. An older woman, fragile, gray hair pulled into a bun. Her steps were slow, her hands trembling slightly. Jasmine gently helped her to a chair. She said something. Daniel couldn't hear what, but her tone was soft, familiar, warm, and then she walked to the counter and opened the bag. She pulled out what little was inside, some leftover rice, a few pieces of chicken, a roll, and began dividing it onto plates. 4 plates. One for each of the kids, one for the elderly woman, none for herself. Daniel's heart sank. She sat at the table with them, smiling, nodding, listening as the children talked excitedly about their day. She made small gestures, cutting invisible food on an empty plate. She didn't eat, not a single bite. She just pretended, moved her fork, shifted crumbs, laughed at a story one of the kids told. Daniel leaned back, stunned. She had put that request in writing because she couldn't risk being told no, because if she went home empty-handed, they wouldn't eat. And if they ate, she wouldn't. It wasn't just a one-time thing. This was a routine. This was survival. As the children finished their food and yawned, Jasmine gathered the empty plates, moving with quiet focus. The elderly woman, her mother, maybe, shuffled slowly toward a worn recliner. No bedroom, no separate space, just that one chair. The children disappeared into a small sectioned-off area near the back, likely sharing one bed. Daniel scanned the interior of the trailer, taking in every corner. It was cramped, worn down, too small for 5 people, too quiet for anyone to complain. Then he saw it, a thin mattress tucked beside the kitchen counter. No frame, just a cushion and a single folded blanket. That was Jasmine's bed. After working double shifts in a hot kitchen, after making sure everyone else was fed, this was where she slept. On the floor, no door, no privacy, no comfort. Daniel clenched his jaw. He thought of the leather chairs in his office, the untouched food from the last board meeting, the bonuses paid to upper management last quarter. And here was Jasmine, working full-time, living on scraps, pretending to eat, and sleeping beside a stove. He had seen enough, but something else was still coming, something that would hit even harder. Inside the trailer, the children were settling in. Jasmine walked over to check on them, tucking in a blanket, adjusting a pillow, brushing a hand over one child's forehead. Then, from the table, the oldest boy looked up. He was maybe 10 or 11. Big eyes, quiet voice. Did you eat at work today? Daniel leaned in, watching Jasmine closely. She froze, but only for a second. Then came the smile. Soft, forced. Yeah, baby. I had something earlier. The boy looked at her for a long moment. He didn't believe her, but he nodded anyway. Didn't argue, didn't question. Daniel's chest tightened. This wasn't just one skip dinner. This wasn't a bad week or a temporary setback. This was her life. Jasmine got up before dawn, worked double shifts, made sure everyone else was okay, and went to bed hungry, on the floor, without ever letting it show. And no one, not a single person in the company, had seen it. Until now. Daniel sat frozen in his car, hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. He had built a company that prided itself on being family-oriented, supportive, fair. At least, that's what they said in the meetings. But this was failure. He thought about the perks the company offered. Retreats, wellness incentives, catered lunches for executives. And the leftovers, thrown away. The same food Jasmine had begged for in writing just to make it through the night. Daniel exhaled sharply, eyes locked on the trailer. Feeling bad wasn't enough. Something had to change. Tonight. Daniel didn't leave. He couldn't. He stayed parked outside the trailer long after the lights inside had gone out. The quiet hum of the street faded behind the weight pressing on his chest. He couldn't unsee what he'd just witnessed. Then he picked up his phone and scrolled through his contacts until he found the name he was looking for. Marcus Lang, Vice President of Operations. He tapped call. It rang twice before a tired voice answered. Sir, it's past midnight. Everything okay? Daniel didn't pause. No, everything is not okay. A silence followed. What's going on? Daniel's eyes stayed fixed on the trailer. We've been blind, he said. And we fix it. First thing in the morning. He didn't ask. He didn't wait. Because this wasn't up for debate anymore. It was time. The next morning, Daniel walked into the corporate office with a different mindset. No small talk, no meetings, just action. By noon, things were already in motion. The first change? Leftover food. No more quiet begging. No more formal requests. From now on, all leftover meals would be packaged and made available to employees at every location. No questions, no shame. The second change? Wages. Pay structures were reevaluated immediately, starting with hourly kitchen staff. No full-time employee would ever again be forced to choose between rent and food. The third change hit deeper. A brand new initiative called the Employee Assistance Program was launched, designed to provide emergency relief for workers facing hardship. Rent support, childcare resources, transportation help. Quiet aid for people who needed it but never asked. Daniel didn't just approve the changes, he demanded them. Because this time, it wasn't about public image. It was personal. At the Atlanta location, the morning shift felt like any other. Jasmine Bell walked in quietly, just as she always did, early, prepared, unnoticed. But today wasn't like the others. Her manager approached her before she even tied her apron. "Hey, Jasmine, can we talk for a second?" She followed him to the back, unsure what was going on. He handed her an envelope. No explanation, just a quiet nod. Inside was a letter, and a number that made her breath catch. A raise, enough to move her and her family out of that trailer. Enough to stop skipping meals. Enough to finally rest without guilt. She didn't cry. She didn't shout. She just stood there, stunned, holding something she hadn't felt in a long time. Security. For the first time in years, she didn't have to pretend to be okay. Daniel had started that night as a CEO. He ended it as something else entirely. A leader. Not because of a title, or a speech, or a quarterly report, but because he chose to stop looking away. Jasmine never asked for praise, never asked for recognition. She asked for leftover food, and through that small, humble request, she exposed everything. The cracks in the system, the blind spots in leadership, the quiet suffering that hides behind smiles. Daniel couldn't fix every problem overnight, but he could start, and he did. Not because it was good PR, but because people like Jasmine shouldn't have to fight alone. So ask yourself this: how many people do you pass every day who are barely holding it together? How many are carrying the weight of a family, sacrificing quietly, pretending everything's fine? You don't have to be a CEO to make a difference. You just have to see them. And if you can help, even in the smallest way, don't wait. Do something today. What would you have done if you were in Daniel's position that night? Share your thoughts in the comments and take a moment to thank someone who's quietly holding everything together. Thank you for watching.